After, well, he broke away from the path of normalcy when he began fantasizing about murder and necrophilia.
I don't say I always wonder, but like, how does that manifest, bro? You just living a normal life, then all of a sudden, you want to smash dead people.
They call me king for a reason, cause I'm number one. King say, gotta go and get it, nigga. King say, hardest in my city, nigga. King say, new wave, give me my crop, I'm undefeated.
YouTube, what it do? It's your boy, King Zay, back in the stew, man. Know what I'm saying? Today, but we got Jeffrey Dahmer in the building, bro. I've been seeing this man everywhere, all on TikTok, on this, on that, on this, on that. So we gotta get into this Jeffrey Dahmer before they were a criminal story, man. Just so we can get some background on this. If you're not sold to the live stream channel, make sure you sub up to Live with Zay. Link will be in the description. With that being said, let's get straight into this video, man.
Now, if you're anything like me, you've been glued to your seat watching the latest Netflix series on Jeffrey Dahmer. This isn't the first reiteration I've heard of his story, but man, I just can't get enough. And it makes me a little creeped out to be so intrigued, but what a story. I mean, this guy's more of a sicko than Charles Manson, maybe even Ted Bundy. Anyways, guys, let us know what you think about this video. We're getting straight into it. Also, I want a pair of that guy's glasses. But again, weird to say. Anyway, let's go. Before Jeffrey Dahmer would become arguably the most notorious serial killer of all time, well, he was born on May 21st, 1960 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, to Lionel and Joyce Dahmer. Now, for the first few years of his life, well, Dahmer, he was described as an energetic and happy kid. That is right up until the age of 4 when he underwent surgery to correct a double hernia. Now, afterwards, his parents, well, they believe he was never quite the same. Now, noticeably subdued, well, Dahmer became increasingly withdrawn following his surgery, as well as the birth of his younger brother, who he named David. And, well, his family's frequent moves from Ohio, we're talking stops in Akron, Dollastown, and the Bath Township. Well, you know, moving around a lot for a young boy, apparently it can kind of mix you up sometimes. Clearly this case. At the age of 14 years old, while attending Revere High School, well, Dahmer would participate in normal extracurriculars like band and intramural sports. But soon thereafter, well, he broke away from the path of normalcy when he began fantasizing about murder and necrophilia.
I don't say I always wonder, but like, how does that manifest, bro? You just living a normal life, then all of a sudden, you want to smash dead people. Like, that just don't make sense.
Yeah.
Jeff was discovering that he felt sexually attracted only to men. But the thoughts of sex with men became interlocked with fantasies of killing another man and dismemberment. The fantasies excited him, but they were unspeakable.
Now, the breakdown of his parents' marriage and their hotly contested divorce will weigh heavily on Dahmer over his difficult adolescent years. And likely, well, it became the catalyst for turning his disturbing thoughts into actual actions. The dark side of Jeffrey's personality, well, it originally manifested itself in his obsession with roadkill. Now, after watching his dad pull the remains of a decayed animal carcass out from under their house as a small boy, well, Dahmer became obsessed with the sound the bones made when they would be struck together. He then began looking for more in his spare time, and he would call the cartilage fiddlesticks.
He had a fascination with animals as a youngster. Once, 4-year-old Jeff watched his father collect the bones of small animals that had died under the house.
Now, decades later,
so he came from his so the whole Dahmer, alright. Should I even get on his dad? Why is his dad collecting bones from dead? Like, what? Like,
long after Jeffrey had murdered and dismembered at least 17 men, well, Dahmer's father Lionel would sit down with Larry King for an interview and admit that the only red flag he ever really picked up on was that something was weird about his fixation on roadkill. Actually, he kind of brushed it under the rug when he told Larry King, "If I had known about the roadkill, I would have done something immediately, intervened. Don't disregard shyness. Things can be fermenting in that young mind." Dig, I wasn't tuned to that. In the 50s and 60s, especially with men, you weren't really taught to be a psychologist. So did he know or didn't he know? Well, if you're watching the latest Netflix series, it was his father who taught him how to do a little operation on roadkill. So I'm guessing he knew, but he didn't want to admit it. Now, in 1978, well, Jeffrey Dahmer would graduate from Revere High School just barely, having spent more time drinking in class than he did paying attention to the lessons. Now, 3 weeks later, he'd take his first life. In the summer of...
Bro, I'm telling y'all right now, I don't know what it is, bro. Whenever when y'all go, if y'all young watching this, bro, when y'all graduate high school, bro, like people who they truly are just come out immediately. I'm talking about even the day after. Like y'all heard, he said 3 weeks later, after graduating high school, he took a life, his first life. That's how it be. Not to this extent. Not to this extent. Not to this extent, but it's just you got so much free time. You don't got to worry about school or none of that.
Jeffrey Dahmer, he picked up a hitchhiker named Stephen Hicks, and he brought him back to his parents' house. Now, when Hicks eventually attempted to leave, well, Dahmer would retaliate by bludgeoning him with a 10-pound dumbbell and then strangling him to death. Dahmer would dismember Stephen's body, pack it into plastic bags, and bury them behind his parents' home, only to then exhume the body and crush the bones with a sledgehammer and scatter the remains across a wooden ravine. Now, following his first murder, well, Dahmer enrolled at Ohio State University, but he would drop out before the first term was up as a result of his persistent alcohol abuse. Now, hoping to alter the course of his son's life, well, Lionel insisted that he join the army. So Dahmer enlisted in December of 1978, and he was posted to Germany shortly thereafter. Now, much like everything else he ever attempted to do, well, Dahmer didn't cut it in the army either. Soon enough, he was handed an honorable discharge and returned home to Ohio to live. Now, it didn't take long for Dahmer to rack up a disorderly conduct charge that prompted his father to ship him off again, but this time to live with his grandmother out in Wisconsin. Struggling to hold down a job and arrested several more times for indecent exposure and furtherly disorderly conduct, well, Dahmer would kill again in November of 1987 when he drugged a man named Stephen Tumai and seemingly attacked him during a blackout. Now, Dahmer would later admit to having no recollection of this killing, but in the following weeks, he'd begin actively seeking out victims to seduce and kill. Now, for the most part, well, Dahmer's victims, they were predominantly Black, Asian, and Latino men, ranging in ages from 14 to 31. Now, he would meet victims in various places, like gay bars and malls, and his killings continued sporadically throughout the late 80s, and he began committing increasingly disturbing acts such as utilizing the remains for sexual gratification and, of course, cannibalism. Yeah, I just got to that part in the show. Oh my god. In 1988, well, Dahmer's grandmother finally grew tired of his late nights and constant drunkenness and forced him out of her house.
Yeah.
Now, in January of the
Why did it take her that long to do it, though? That's the real question.
following year, well, Dahmer, he had himself a close call after an encounter with a 13-year-old Laotian boy. Well, this would result in charges of sexual exploitation and second-degree sexual assault. Now, at the time, Dahmer, he pleaded guilty, and he claimed that the boy, well, he had appeared to be much older. Now, during the course of his unfolding
They ain't try to hit none of that.
Dahmer, he would
Neither am
lure,
I.
drug, strangle, photograph, dismember, and dispose of the body of yet another victim. This time, Anthony Sears, who was an aspiring model. Then only 2 months later, well, Dahmer, he spoke on behalf of his own defense in court and was seen to be the model of contrition, speaking eloquently about having seen the error of his ways and that his arrest was a turning point in his life. Now, his defense counsel, they argued that he needed treatment, not incarceration, and the judge ultimately agreed, dishing out a 1-year prison sentence on day release. Now, this meant that Jeff, he could continue to work his job during the day and then return to prison at night.
Nah. What y'all doing, bro? If y'all, bro, is that even worth it, bro? Work a job in the real world during the day and then return to prison. Is that worth it?
Now, Dahmer was eventually granted an early release after serving 10 months. He briefly lived with his grandmother one more time before moving into an apartment of his own in May of 1990. And that's when his murdering spree, well, it really escalated. He began killing about one person a week by the summer of 1991.
Jeez.
Neighbors like Glenda Cleveland, they complained to police regularly about strange smells and noises coming from his apartment. Now, in one case, a victim who was lobotomized by Dahmer, well, he managed to make it out of the apartment and ask for help. Now, when law enforcement showed up, well, Dahmer evaded capture by saying that the man was his 19-year-old intoxicated boyfriend. Now, in reality, this was the 14-year-old younger brother of the Laotian teen that Dahmer had molested 3 years earlier. My God. Now,
What?
police had taken the time to investigate Dahmer.
Why did they make a documentary about? I mean, I guess you trying to warn people of people like, but what?
His premises thoroughly, well, they would have discovered the body of his 12th victim, Tony Hughes. Instead, Dahmer would kill 4 more men, including that 14-year-old boy, before he was finally arrested. In July of 1981, Dahmer approached 3 men and offered them money to pose for nude photographs. Now, one of these men, Tracy Edwards, well, he agreed and he followed Dahmer back to his apartment, where he was then handcuffed and had a knife held to his chest, as Dahmer told him he intended to eat his heart. Miraculously, Will Edwards, he was able to run by, punching Dahmer and then throwing him to the ground.
That's another thing I was saying, but I ain't gonna lie. I mean, if Dahmer don't got a weapon, I ain't gonna lie. I'm whooping his ass. I didn't want to say it, but I said it. I'm like, yo, he not doing that to me.
Allowing him to escape through the unlocked
If you don't got no weapon. If you got a weapon, then it's
Milwaukee
different.
police officers who led back to Dahmer's address.
And then I just, for some reason, I said, well, I need to go to the bathroom again, and he didn't follow me at that point. So I reached up, I got up, and then I hit him, and I ran out.
Now, when they arrived, the officers discovered an open drawer that contained Polaroid pictures of human bodies in various stages of dismemberment. Now, once these pictures were discovered, well, Dahmer attempted to flee, but the cops, they overpowered him, and they finally brought him in.
Milwaukee's 24-hour news channel.
Very gruesome discovery in Milwaukee overnight.
Milwaukee police find a horrifying scene inside an apartment building.
Police got here in the middle of the night, and what they found was an apartment full of pieces.
Following his arrest, Will Dahmer
Pieces of people.
would give a detailed confession to police for a total of 17 slangs. Now, he was then charged with 4 counts of first-degree intentional homicide, followed by 11 more murder charges the following month, bringing his total to 15. Now, in September of 1991, Will Dahmer, he pleaded innocent by reason of mental disease, but later changed his plea to guilty but insane in January of 92. Now, this was in hopes of being sent to a state institution where he could later petition for release. Now, his trial, it would begin on January 30th of 1992, and it lasted for about 2 weeks.
You know he don't care.
February 15th, 1992, Will Dahmer was ruled to be sane and not suffering from a mental disorder at the time of each of the murders. Now, he was then convicted of 16 murders and sentenced to 16 life terms in prison. At the time, Dahmer reportedly told the court, "I never wanted freedom. Frankly, I wanted death for myself. I knew I was sick or evil or both. Doctors have told me about my sickness, and now I have some peace. I know how much harm I have caused. I feel so bad for what I did to them."
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't.
Those poor families. Now, Dahmer was transferred to Columbia Correctional Institution in Portage, Wisconsin, but his time in jail wouldn't last long. About a year and a half later, on November 28, 1994, well, he was bludgeoned to death by a fellow inmate.
And then his father committed another crime that ensured he would never be coming home. He bludgeoned Jeffrey Dahmer.
What does bludgeon mean?
Another inmate to death in the prison gym.
In accordance with regular work details, Will Dahmer had been assigned to work with 2 other convicted.
I'm not gonna sit here and act like killing people is okay. But hey, karma is karma, boy. He had it coming. No lie. What they say, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. You killing other people, somebody gonna come kill you. Literally.
Murderers Christopher Scarver and Jesse Anderson. Now, after being left alone to complete their task, the guards returned to discover that Scarver, he had brutally beaten both men with a metal bar from the prison weight room. That is how Dahmer killed his first victim, so serves him right. You know what I mean? Now, Dahmer was pronounced dead about an hour later, with Anderson succumbing to his injuries in the following days. In 2015, Scarver would speak with the New York Post about his reasons for killing Dahmer. Now, Scarver would allege that he was disturbed by what Dahmer had done, and by a habit Dahmer had developed in prison of fashioning severed limbs out of his daily meals to antagonize other inmates. Now, he ended by telling them, "Some people who are in prison are repentant, but he was not one of them." Now, of course, since then, Dahmer's story, it's become the focus of various television and film projects, including the 2002 biographical film titled Dahmer, starring Jeremy Renner, and then the graphic novel My Friend Dahmer, and most recently, the Netflix series made by Ryan Murphy, who's the producer. We're talking Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story, starring Evan Peters. In fact, today Dahmer has more or less become shorthand in popular culture, well, for the existence of pure evil. And that's thanks wholly to his role as one of history's most notorious criminals and serial killers of all time. Yeah, I can't believe this guy got away with it for so long, obviously.
That's what I'm saying.
And it's such recent history. My God. All right, guys, that wraps us up for our latest edition of Before They Were Criminal. I know that these aren't for everyone, but there is...
Man, let me know what y'all thought of this entire video, bro. That is ridiculous. How do you... Alright. Bro, serial killers... Okay. Killing 16 people without being caught is ridiculous, bro. Like, even in the 90s, like, bro, what were the police doing? They didn't... It's just like, you didn't care. How do you kill that many people without... Anyways, man, comment down below what y'all thought of it. It's very disturbing. Comment down below what y'all thought of this entire situation. Make sure y'all leave a like on this vid. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. That being said, man, I'll post daily reactions. So I'll catch you in the next one. It's your boy King Zay signing up, man. Peace.